Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this info session on the second joint called Defense. My name is Rebecca Demet, and I'm advisor for Defense Technology and Innovation at Lux Innovation. Together with me, we have Julien Silverio from the Directorate of Defense, Richard Maghat from the Fonds National for the Research, Research National Fund, FNR, Marco Valentini from the Ministry of Economy, and Maximilian Chibil from Lux Innovation. We will, through this info session, give you all relevant information so that you can carry out with submitting a project proposal for the second joint defense that has been officially announced Monday, 18 March by the Minister of Defense, Yuriko Pakes, jointly with the Minister of Economy, Lex Teles, and the Minister of Higher Education and Research, Stéphanie Oberton. Before giving the floor to Julien, a few words on the platform and the session. First of all, the session is recorded and the recording will be made available afterwards, as well as the slides. It will be publicly available, so not just to people attending. And then on the platform, you have two options, discussion and questions. Please use the question part for the Q&A that we will have at the end. You can already launch a question if you have, and in the discussion file tab, don't hesitate to present yourself, where you come from, and maybe start having a few project ideas. So the session will cover the following aspects. We will first have an introduction and the context of the call. Then we will hear about the modalities of the call, have an overview of the call text, what kind of support Lux Innovation provides you, and then finally we will have the Q&A. So, Julien, I can leave the floor to you.
Yes, thank you. That's the second slide. So I will discuss and give a bit of context of why this National Joint Defense Call is happening. So the first reason that we are continuing, since it's the second one, is that in the coalition agreement of the new government, there is an explicit paragraph on the support of projects which have a positive economic and societal return for Luxembourg. Of course, a project like this with R&D projects, which, as you will see, is aimed at national actors, has, of course, in some way, shape, or form, an economic return. Even more if down the line the technologies are being used in like final solutions, capabilities, and so on. Then something which is a bit lesser known is that we have a commitment from the European Union that says that member states need to spend at least 2% of their defense budget in R&D activities, meaning that this platform, this call, is part of those 2% that we need to achieve every year, at least 2% we need to achieve every year. Then I believe the one which is more in the news and which is better is known a bit better by the public is the 2% that NATO imposes, at least 2% as well, which we need to spend. For us, it will be the gross national income. Usually it's the how is it called? Gross national product, GNP, but that's for us, we have a special, so it's a gross national income, and that's basically, of course, if we spend in R&D, it also helps to achieve the 2% GNI. Then why this project? Why this call again? Well, For one, as I mentioned, it will help us achieve our budgetary goals and ambitions over the next coming years, but also something which is maybe even more important, which cannot really be done by other projects, is to give the national actors an opportunity to acquire an experience in the defense domain, which is something which is not like easy to do on your own necessarily, and which means that we wanted to provide a platform where you can exchange defense-specific ideas and topics in the domain of research and development. So that's it for this part.
On a second point regarding the context, I would like also to recall the cooperation between Lux Innovation and the Directorate of Defense. So Lux Innovation has the mandate by the Directorate of Defense to support the Luxembourg industry and research community in meeting the needs of European security and defense. And we do that closely with all the ecosystem actors along 5 streams of work, which are the creation of a community, the support of national innovative initiatives such as this call, the integration of the community within the EU defense and security value chain, and we also work along the creation of collaboration with partners countries and the promotion of the Luxembourg ecosystem at international level. So this joint call is directly the result of these streams of work. It has been identified as a tool to support the ecosystem to innovate in order to be ready for tomorrow, and also to identify opportunities nationally to foster collaborative projects for the entire ecosystem in view of a sustainable and digital economy in line with the vision for Luxembourg. On the question, why do we have a joint call for defense industry? There are 2 main reasons. The first reason is the call is put together with the Ministry of Defense, of Economy, the FNR, in order to offer the ecosystem a competitive call for proposal for developing and validating innovative dual-use solutions that will potentially benefit the national defense forces, the international defense organizations such as the European Defense Agency, NATO. It can also maybe the outcome of the project be beneficial for the defense forces of allied nation or the civilian research and local industry. To make it short, this call, the joint call, is the opportunity for you to have a first validation of a defense use case by the ministries and the Directorate of Defense who participate in the evaluation of the different projects. There are 4 main characteristics for the calls. First of all, it focuses on the national industries and research organization only, so it's really a national call in order to give you nationally the possibility to be recognized by the Directorate of Defense, but also to strengthen the national innovation capacity and to prepare the national ecosystem to join later to integrate the EU defense ecosystem. The call focuses on dual-use solutions through either the development of new knowledge or the adaptation of existing technologies from the civilian ecosystem to the defense domain. So this dual-use aspect is really important. You have to demonstrate that your solution that you want, that you will submit, is beneficial both for the civilian ecosystem as well as the defense military ecosystem, that it has an application in both aspects. Another point is that the call is also relatively flexible. It looks for collaborative projects between private and public entities in Luxembourg with a bottom-up approach along 3 verticals that have been announced by the ministers, which are smart mobility, resilient infrastructures, and strategic foresight and climate change adaptation. Also, the projects that we will look for can be of research or development nature. The TRL range is quite broad. Projects can be between TRL 2 to 6. So you have a lot of flexibility there either. Then the second main point, why the joint defense call nationally, beside the validation, the first validation of the dual use technology, it's to prepare the national industry and ecosystem to integrate the EU defense value chain. This value chain, it comprises the prime contractors, so big industries, big companies, we all know the names, and ministries of defense from allied countries. The first contract that this project, research and development project under the joint call will be for you, it will be a first contract with the Directorate of Defense. It can have a considerable leveraging effects within the EU value chain because it's a validation of the technology as a technology of interest for the defense sector, military aspect in Luxembourg, but also at European levels. And then the aim and what we will work on together is for you to integrate the EU defense value chain in order to bring this solution technology further. And to integrate this value chain, there are several opportunities within the different working groups and funding programs. We have the working groups of the European Defence Agency, where the ministries of defence and the prime contractors develop together solutions. We have the European Defence Fund, which is based on competitive call for proposal, but which aims also to have operational capabilities by 2028. And we also have other programs such as the novel NATO programs, Pioneer and the NATO Innovation Funds. The point regarding the joint call, these programs, you do not need to take them into consideration when you propose a project for the national call, so you do not need to do a link between your project and the different calls and opportunities, but it can be very useful for you as a company or a research center if you do not have a link with the defense ecosystem yet, to look at what is being done there, because you can find within the European Defence Agency working group and the European Defence Funds, for instance, you can find the technology priority domains which are relevant to the EU defense, so they can also help you structure the project so that it replies to the needs in terms of dual use and defense capabilities. Now I will leave the floor for the modalities of the joint call. Firstly, we will see the funding and eligibility modalities, and we will start with the funding and eligibility modalities for companies with Marco.
Yes. So hello, everybody. So without going into too much detail, I will present you the eligibility criteria, the funding conditions, and the eligible costs for companies. So regarding the eligibility criteria, we could only, so this call is addressing only private enterprises that are registered in Luxembourg, and only those companies are eligible for direct funding by the Ministry of the Economy. I would also very much give you the advice to contact Office du contrôle des exportations, importations et du transit to see whether you need licenses for dual use or defense activities, because With your request, you will be asked to sign and tell us that you are okay with respect to licenses that you need. So regarding the criteria, the companies must demonstrate their viability and financial soundness regarding their contribution to the project. They shall demonstrate also the positive impact of the expected project outcomes on their growth and future assets. Ineligible companies. So there is a very strong rule that says that no undertaking in difficulties can seek for public state aid. So this is true for every type of company and every size of company, except for small and medium companies that have less than 3 years of existence. In fact, you are an undertaking in difficulty if more than half of the subscribed share capital, share premium included, has disappeared as a result of accumulated losses. So as an example, if own funds equity are 50K and you have a share capital of 200K, there you are in problems. You are considered as an undertaking in difficulty. Also for large companies, there are two other ratios that have to be considered. Debt over equity, the ratio debt over equity should not go over 7.5, and the ratio interests payable over earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization has to be should not go over 1. So if you are in that situation, that means that we could not give you support unless you will change this situation. So this situation can be changed by an increase of share capital, for example. So that's a very important criteria. That's the most important criteria, in fact, with respect to state aid conditions. So that's something that will be really looked upfront because otherwise it has there's no reason to go further on in discussions. So now about the funding conditions for companies. So we have a law to promote R&D, and this scheme will be used to determine the level of support to companies. So for the moment, we still have a law of the 17th May of 2017, but there is a new law in the legislation process, and we hope that this new law will be effective. At the moment, we will look over the projects and decide which projects will be supported. But basically, there will be no change because this support will be based on the new rules that we have set up to support projects that are proposed in the context of a call where the Ministry of the Economy is participating where companies will have a bonus of support of 10%. So to give you there the level, the maximum level of support that we can give, there will be two situations. As it was earlier said, projects can be of TRL from 2 to 6, which means that we could support either projects that are considered as experimental development or projects that are considered as industrial research. So experimental development projects are projects that are seeking for developing a solution, building on existing knowledge. There, the support for large companies can go up to 40% of the eligible costs. For medium companies, there's a bonus of 10%, meaning that there we can go up to 50%, and for small companies, 60%. For industrial research, those are projects which seek to acquire new knowledge, where there will be, at the end of the project, not yet a direct commercial application developed, which need further experimental development to come up with a commercial solution. So as those projects normally have a higher risk of failure, there the support is higher. For large companies, it will be 65% the maximum. For medium companies, 75%, and for small companies, 80%. The maximum support for a project will be as a total 1,000 K, but as projects need to be partnering projects, so for each organization, the maximum support will be 500K. For small and medium companies, at least there is the possibility to have an upfront payment, but this will depend on the liquidity needs and the business plan of the company. So that will be a case-by-case decision that will be taken. Last but not least, now the eligible costs for company. So which costs will be supported? As always in research and innovation projects, we consider that most of the eligible costs will be personnel costs. So they will be based on gross salary over a 12 months basis. It will be only gross salary, so we will not take into consideration premium, supplement bonuses, and other advantages. But we will include the social charges of the employer up to a flat rate of 20% of gross salaries. Gross salaries on an individual basis will be limited to 10,000 euro per month. And we will only take into consideration the really costs spent on the project. So costs that can be proven by timesheets. So there will be no vacation, no sick days. Those will not be taken into consideration. Secondly, all the costs of equipment, there again, based on the time and the intensity that equipment will be used for the project. So they will be based on the depreciation costs over the project's duration. Also consumables that will be needed, for example, for building prototypes that could not be sold afterwards. Then we have also a flat rate of 20% of gross salaries, included social contributions for all the overhead costs. And last but not least, special costs like subcontracting, consulting services will also be considered. So that's all from my part for the moment. Um, of course, you can. Sorry. Of course, I will give you the advice to if you have any questions regarding this to go into touch with Lux Innovation, who could then give you further detail and answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Now we will have the eligibility and funding criteria for the research performing organization. And we need the slide. This is the right slide. Richard, this is your turn.
Thank you, Rebecca. There are my slides. So thank you again, Rebecca. My part today will be both short and sweet because I will be presenting to you the funding conditions for the public research organizations in Luxembourg. And the funding conditions here are much simpler than the ones for companies. For starters, all our usual beneficiaries are eligible for the defense call as well. These are the ones that are already eligible under the FNR law and are registered with us. Second, we fund up to 500,000 euros per project. This means that in the case of multiple public research organizations within the same consortium, that they must share this amount. Then we have the eligible cost categories. These are the usual that you are also used from core or bridges. These are personnel costs. We have equipment, consumables, travel costs, subcontracting, other costs, or indirect costs, also known as overheads. Please be advised, though, that concerning subcontracting, there are specific rules applicable to this call that are not applicable to the other ones. But these specific rules will be explained later in this presentation. Then only effective collaborations between RPOs and companies are eligible in this call. And last but not least, we fund up to 100% of the eligible project costs of the public research organizations. If you perhaps have noticed that there is a mention of a 10% or minimum 10% contribution from the public research organization towards the eligible costs of the projects so that the companies are eligible for their part of the public funding, please rest assured that these are not extra costs, but they are just counting towards the balance of costs within the consortium and are eligible for funding within from the FNR as well. So that is already all from my side, and I can give over to Julien.
Yes, thank you, Richard. So my slide, this one. So I'll go a bit into detail in the specific eligibility criteria for this call, which are slightly different from the last call. What remains the same is that this call is only aimed at national actors, companies, and research and technology organizations here in Luxembourg. But what has changed a bit is the restrictions on nationalities. So for this call, the beneficial owner of the company / research organization, as well as the employees of the company or research organization that will work on the project will have to have nationality from a NATO member country or from an EU, EEA, EFTA country. And finally, what has changed is or one of the following NATO Indo-Pacific partners with Australia, Japan, Republic of South Korea, and New Zealand. Then these restrictions will be in a document that will need to be signed on honor declaration that all these conditions will be met by each company and each research organization. And where the second point will also need to be addressed internally in the organization, which is that if there are non-NATO, so nationalities, employees of nationalities which are not part of the first bullet point, at that point, measures will need to be taken inside of the organization so that those people are not in contact or exposed to information of the projects that are to be funded in this joint call. And then the point on intellectual property used in the frame of this, of those R&D projects from this second joint defense call, are to be originating from NATO member countries, etc., etc. The states which were also relevant in the first bullet point. If there are questions about this, and I think there will be, please let us know, and we will clear everything up afterwards. Now I give the floor, I think, to Rebecca. Yes, I think the slide is coming up.
Yes, thank you. So I will now explain to you about the submission and evaluation process. We've seen the eligibility and funding conditions. So first, you have before you the call timeline. The call, as well as all joint calls that have been launched the last years, is done in two phases. The first phase, which comprises of a project outline, an evaluation, a result, and then project people are invited for a second phase to submit the full project proposal. The first phase will be open for submission on the 15th of April, so in 2 weeks' time, until the 14th of June. So you have 2 months to submit the project outline. During this time, you will receive standardized support by Lux Innovation. These are webinars. You have the platform. There will be a Q&A on the platform. We will have a second webinar also more focused on Q&A. There's also IT support if you need with the platform. And this project outline is submitted on the research industry collaboration platform, which only. Then there will be the evaluation, and you should expect a feedback on your project outline by mid-July. So this project outline will be reviewed by the granting authorities, which are the FNR, the Ministry of Economy, and the Ministry of Defense, the Directorate of Defense. It's important to know also that the Directorate of Defense is the only entity in this organization, in this joint call organization, that has a veto right on the project. So if the project is not to doesn't go well with the strategies and the intentions of the ministry, then the project can be vetoed. During the evaluation of the project outline, there will be also an evaluation of the eligibility and financial viability check done by Lux Innovation. And the results of the evaluation is a go, no-go decision. You could also potentially receive recommendations for the phase 2 should you receive a go decision. The phase 2, you will also have around 2 months to submit a full project proposal. So it will start, submission will start the 22nd of July until the 30th of September. The company can receive individualized coaching by Lux Innovation, and the submission of the full project proposal will be done in 2 different phases. Companies will submit on My Guichet, the same way they do for state aids, and research organization will submit through the FNR grant management system, as is the usual practice for research organization and FNR funding opportunities. Then, once the submission is closed, the evaluation process starts. The full project proposal will be reviewed by an independent expert panel. That's why we also say that you have a first validation of the defense use case, because the project is validated and reviewed and validated by independent expert panel that comes from the defense sector. They will make a recommendation on the project for an award decision. Then the State Aid Commission from the Ministry of the Economy gather and analyze the company projects. And then there's a FNR-MECO joint funding decision. And you should expect first the feedback around February 2025. And the expected project start date for the starting date of the project, of course, would be March 25th. So this is the timeline. You can find it again on the join call if you need to have it under your eyes. Regarding the submission for the phase 1, so for the project outline, there are pre-selection criteria and compulsory documents. So the pre-selection criteria are the fact that the project should be aligned with the core objectives and topics, dual use, TRA between 2 to 6. You should also complete all compulsory information that you will find under the research organization platform. For the company, you need to be eligible for state aids, as explained by Marco just before that, but also have a co-funding capacity. You, of course, need to ensure that the project's costs are adapted to your co-funding capacity. Then we have the compulsory documents, which on the platform are referred to as annexes. For research and industry or private companies, you will have to have a project description and the cost estimation. There is a declaration of honor that you comply with all pre-selection criteria and other eligibility criteria to include. There's a template on the platform, and you would need to add the CDE, curriculum details. For the companies, we ask as well an organogram with the full visibility of the shareholder structure up to the ultimate beneficial owner. The 2022 and 2023 accounts of the company that apply and the linked entities as well. And finally, a cash flow forecast. All these information about the submission and documents that are needed, you will also find them again on the call text, so on the research platform. Yes. Then briefly on the evaluation process of the phase 2, there will be dedicated webinars when we arrive more in towards the deadlines and the launch of the second phase. So the evaluation process of the second phase, which is a full proposal, project proposal, is done by, said again, an independent evaluation panel. And they will look at 3 different criteria, which are the relevance, so the quality and the innovative character of the project, the implementation criteria, so the quality and the feasibility of the project plan and the work plan to ensure the success of the project, and then finally, the impact of the project, so potential impact and contribution of the project to the economy and technology solutions. This concludes the part on the modalities of the call text, and I will now go over, well, concludes the part on the call text, the submission and all, and I will go now on the call text overview. As announced before by the ministers, the call text is organized around three verticals. So we have the smart mobility, the resilient infrastructures, and the strategic foresight and climate change adaptations. And these verticals are supported by transversal technologies that are the digital technologies and technologies for sustainable development. All that is in line with the Luxembourg vision for a digital and sustainable economy by 2025. You can also see on the slide that under each vertical we have several sub-thematics. If you go, when you will go on the web page for the call text, you will also see that these sub-thematics are supported by subcategories, a lot of subs. So what I want to say is that the call text is quite broad and open. We say it's bottom-up, so you have directions, you have the verticals to which you need to conform anyway. But if you would like to submit the project under these verticals and the different thematics that is not covered by the categories, subcategories, there is room for it for consideration. Also, something important is that the verticals and sub-thematics are in line with the national defense strategies and the European one. So the national strategies are the Luxembourg Defense Guideline for 2035, cyber defense strategies, and the defense space strategies. Regarding the EU defense and NATO background documents, we have the strategic compass for the European Union, the EU-NATO cooperation, joint understanding declaration, but also the EU capability development priorities by the European Defence Agency that has recently been updated and published in 2023. These documents are important for you if you need to get acquainted with what is defense and what could be defense use cases. There, in these documents, what you can see, these are the capabilities, technology capabilities that have been identified by the EU and by NATO as important, and it will help you to understand better how to tailor and structure the project around the defense use case. A last point before leaving the floor on the support by Lux Innovation. The project will need to showcase a civil use case and a defense military use case. You can also call in to an outside expert to help you define and validate your use case. These costs for the outside expert can be supported by the joint call, but you can also contact us at Lux Innovation so that we can validate the use case. Validate. The validation will be done by the evaluation process, but we can discuss and refine the use case together with Lux Innovation. With this, I leave the floor to Maximilian on the support that Lux Innovation can provide for the joint call.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Good morning, everyone. Also, welcome from my side. So I see that there are already a lot of questions coming up in the discussion tab. So I will keep it also quite short on my side. And we'll just keep it to the most essential elements of the Lux Innovation support. So as you can see here on the slide, and as was previously also introduced by Rebecca, we distinguish our support between the phase 1 and the phase 2 of the joint call. During the first call, We will keep it more standardized so that we can provide the same level of information and details to all interested applicants. So here it will be mostly about raising awareness on the eligibility criteria that you have been introduced to today, and also about the financial viability checks that will be performed to evaluate your co-financing capacity, essentially. That will be done during a couple of Q&A sessions. So the first info session, we had it today. The next Q&A session, as you can see on the bottom of the slide, will then be in roughly 2 months on the 21st of May. And here the main topic will be about the main eligibility criteria and the completeness check. So here we will present you in more detail, as it's in the title, the criteria, but essentially also the types of documents, the attachments that you will need to provide in order to submit a complete application until the submission deadline for the first phase. In addition, we will also regularly update the FAQ section on the Research Industry Collaboration platform, and we will also be there to support you if you have any IT issues. Now, during the second phase, we will be providing a more individualized coaching for the applicant companies. Here, we are really there to support you one by one by reviewing and proofreading your application, giving you feedback on how to maybe improve or complete your application files. And we will also be a sparring partner if you have any questions towards the submission process via the MyGuichet platform, or also with regards to other measures that relate to your project. So maybe the financing, maybe some IP questions that you might have. So for all these questions, we will be there to help you as good as we can. Now, you heard the name quite often today. I guess the Research Industry Collaboration Platform will be the main, the main place where the call will take place, at least during the first phase. So that's also why I would like to give you in just a few, or in just a nutshell, a few elements about that platform. I guess that most of you might already be quite familiar with it from the previous joint calls that we organized together with the colleagues from the ministry and the FNR. But just in a nutshell, it's really important that you create your account on the platform. That's the first step in order to more or less do everything for this joint call defense, I would say, because this will allow you to then go to the next steps, which are the joint call defense in this specific case, and afterwards the most interesting parts that you can see here on the right hand side. It will also allow you to first of all participate in an ideation process, meaning that you will have the possibility to share a project idea that you would like to present to potentially interested applicants, but you will at the same time also have the possibility to browse yourself the ideas of others and provide feedback, share some comments, and the main goal would here be to find a partner. So if you already have a partner and a project idea identified beforehand, that's perfect. But if you might have an idea, you can maybe also find one or a couple of partners here on the platform. And finally, the most important part, I would say, you see it on the very bottom of the slide, is the creation of your project file. That will also be done here on the platform. This will be available as of the official start of the call on the 15th of April. And by that date, you can then start creating your applications. It's important that each partner that's represented in the consortium is accepting and validating their participation. And as of then, you can jointly prepare the answers to the, I would say, roughly 10 questions of the project outline. So you see that it's a rather short project outline. The main idea is really to get a better understanding of your project idea, of your consortium as well, and also to provide the mandatory attachments. And with that said, I think it's now time for the Q&A part of today's session, and therefore I would leave again the floor to my colleague Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. I see the chat is very active. We have a lot of questions. I would also ask our previous speakers if they can come back on the stage so that we can discuss the question. Some questions have been replied already by Marco in the chat, so I will still read them, so we have them also on the recording. A question if it's mandatory to have in every proposed project consortium a company and a research organization. Yes, this is a joint call, public-private partnership. So the aim is to foster collaboration between public and private. So we in the national spheres, so in Luxembourg. So please work together. Then we have a question of the maximum aid level for the small companies. Marco, you have replied. Do you want to take it online or should I read?
So yes, for small companies, I mean the maximum support, of course, is depending on the type of project. As we can have either an research, industrial research project or a pre-competitive development. For the pre-competitive development, a small company can have up to 80%, and for an so for the industrial research, 80%, and for a pre-competitive development, 60%. I would just like to insist that, of course, those maximum rates are only applicable if it's really a partnership project with a public research organization, and to be this type of private-public partnership project, the public research organization must take over at least 10% of the total project costs, and they must also have the right to publish their results.
Thank you. To continue on the funding, we have a demand to reconfirm that the maximum total project size is 1 million for private entities. It is not, it's 500k for private entities within a consortium if you have several, and that the eligible cost will be a percentage of that total project size, therefore always lower than the maximum total project size. And then maybe to compile with the question if an entity that participates in more than one project, the 500 million euros maximum would be for each project separate and not by entity. Marco, if you were.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I guess it will be quite difficult to place more than one partnership project for one company, because I mean, all the projects are chosen on their best merits. But yes, in the end, the support is by project, the maximum support.
Thank you. Okay, now we will go to another question related to the nationalities. So this is mostly for Julien, I would say. Is it possible to involve people that have two citizenship? One of them is EU, the other one is non-EU and non-NATO?
Yeah, so for that, that's yes, we did it in the first call. So if you have dual citizenships and one of those is in the allowed nationalities, as mentioned in the first bullet point in the slide I showed before, then that is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and then for the second part, in addition to that, can our employee who currently has a non-EU, non-NATO citizenship but will obtain EU citizenship in December 2024 take part in this call? So at the latest, I think in phase 2, we also ask for the CVs of the people involved that will be involved in the project. At the latest, at that point, the nationalities need to be in line with what they need to be, because what comes afterwards, if at the end the person, the employee, doesn't get a citizenship for one reason or another, that can happen. So at the latest, in phase 2, the nationalities need to be sorted out.
And there's oh, this is TRL. Okay, we have other question regarding nationality. We will go to that and come back to TRL. A second. So we have a question: if both BSME and research institutes are from Luxembourg, I think you replied to it, Marco. That's SME. Oh yeah, you replied to it. The SME can collaborate with researchers from other EU countries. So the answer is yes, but these will not be covered by the joint call. And to make it short, we have a question regarding the CV's curriculum vitae to be submitted during phase 1. Are these the one for identified individuals participating in the project and associated to the personal cost? What if some individuals were identified and included later in the submission process? So, who wants the question?
I think Mario answered it just now.
Okay.
Yeah, I just answered it now. So if there are profiles that are where you still have to hire people, okay, so then please describe the profile for the hirees.
Just as I said before, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at the latest in phase 2, the submission of the the big description, at the latest at that point, the CVs of all involved employees and researchers need to be submitted. Yeah.
Just one that I saw. Shall the company be already registered in Luxembourg while submitting the project outline?
Well, I mean, at least for the moment the decision will be taken whether the project will be supported or not, the company should be correctly registered.
Then a quick question on cash flow forecast related to the project or to the company. I think we can agree it's for the company. Then if we come back to questions regarding TRL, could we propose a project that is already in proof of concept phase to develop this up to TRL 5 to 6, or do we have to start a project from TRL 2? You don't need to start from TRL 2. You can develop it up to TRL 5 or 6. So there's also a reply from Marco if you want to add something.
No, nothing to be added. You just told everything that was to be mentioned.
Okay. Then question on the dual-use defense activities licenses from the OSAID. For companies, are these licenses for specific product, or specific to a company? Julien, if you may.
Yes. So they are more related to product and to how a product is being made available. So it's more transit of a product and also of IPs of various. So it's quite complicated, or it can be, but it's not on a company basis, that's for sure, and it's not on a project basis as well. It's really product related. But then again, if there are more questions on this, we can maybe organize an information session specifically with the OSITE. There will be very many cases where they will be needed in these projects here, but it's something where if you have a doubt, it's better to ask and to clarify later. So.
Yes, and it's something we will also look into more closely within the webinar for the phase 2 with the project that will receive a go to submit in phase 2.
May I just recommend, nevertheless, to consider this as early as possible, because this could take some time also to contact the office, and so please consider this as soon as possible if you
Yes.
have any doubts.
Yeah, thank you. It's a process as well if you need to apply for the license later on, so better early than late. There's a final question. Extra session related to the licenses would be very helpful. Okay, we take note of this and we will see how we can organize such a session. Another question, that was asked from the public side. What is meant by saying that the public research organization must support at least 10% of total project cost? And I think this is a very important question, and the answer is as well important. So Marco, if you would like to repeat again or explain.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have organized this call for private-public partnership projects only. So, I mean, if it should be a partnership project, of course, this means that every partner in the project should take over a considerable amount of effort in the project. And so also in our law, it is said that to be a partnership project and a partnership project with a public research organization, the public research organization should take over at least 10% of the total project cost. So the project costs of the private sector company together with the part taken over by the public research organization. So this total amount, the public research part should be at least 10% of this. Otherwise, we could not reasonably consider this to be a partnership project.
Thank you, Marco. I do not see any more questions. Max, I will just ask you to go to the next slides because there are the contacts if you have questions in the future.
I still have one point, just Rebecca, sorry, just to come back to the OSITE and the licenses. There is quite useful documentation on the guichet where you can see everything which is related to defense-specific licenses, which in this case I don't think we will come really into play because we are in a dual-use scenario. But nevertheless, you can have a look at it. But there's also a very specific what is part of the dual-use licenses it's very, very detailed. So if you have any doubts, you can already start looking into this and then ask maybe more specific questions than just what is a license, because a lot of information can already be found on Guichet about this. It's better you come with specific questions about, oh, does this fall into a possible license like this technology in particular, than just coming with the question, what is a license? Because then we are going to lose a lot of time, the explanations.
Yes, I have put in the chat the link to these information that Julia mentioned that you can already have a look towards, and then yes, go with specific question to the site, and you will see also if the project you have, the product you have already falls into dual use or not, and then if you have a doubt, then it's better to ask. No more question. With that, then I will thank you all for joining us and asking all the questions. We really look forward to the projects that you will submit, and are really eager to know what you want to work on. I would like also to thank the speakers for being here today, for the clear information, for answering the questions, and wish you all a really, really nice day. You will receive the slides. The recording will be online on YouTube, and then the web page has an FAQ. We will update it with the question received today, and there will be a second webinar later in May, closer to the submission deadline. Thank you all, and with that, a really nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.